Now, so far we've set up a Vue instance to control the app element, and we've injected dynamic content into it, this title right here. But Vue.js can do so much more than that, much more. And one of those things is to store functions or methods on our Vue instance as well. And then we can call those methods from elsewhere inside this Vue instance, or even from inside our template. So let's create a method. First of all, what we need to do is create a method property inside this Vue instance. So let's do a comma and say methods, like so. This is also an object. Now let's create a method called greet. So we just say the method name, parentheses, and then open up our curly braces to define the content of this function. So at the minute, all I want to do is just return a simple string, not return. And I'm going to use an ES6 template string. So that's using the little backticks that are just below the escape key on my keyboard. Now, I do have a whole bonus section at the end of this whole course, which is going to explain a few different methods and ES6 functionality that I use throughout this series. So if you don't know what a template string is, or arrow functions as I start to use those, they're all explained in that last bonus section. So feel free to check that out. But in a nutshell, a template string is going to allow us to dynamically output variables within inside the string without concatenating them like we would with a regular string. So anyway, to begin with, I'm just going to say hello there. So what if I want to call this greet function, this greet method, from this template so that it outputs this to the template? Well, I can do that really easily. If I just come below the h2 and do a p tag, then we use double curly braces again, because again we're interacting with this thing, we're outputting something that's dynamic here. So inside the double curly braces this time we want to call a function. So all we do is we write the name of that function, which is greet, and then we invoke it much like we would a normal JavaScript function with the parenthesis. So again, Vue is going to look at this and it's going to say, okay, well this is a method. I'll look for that method on this instance, I find it, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to return this value, hello there. So that should hopefully now output hello there inside this p tag. Let's give this a whirl. I'm going to save it and view it in a browser, and we can see hello there inside the browser. And if we inspect, we can see it's just inside that p tag. There's no function, just hello there, the string. Cool. So let's take this a couple of steps further. We'll go back in app.js, and what we can do is we can access all the data from this Vue instance inside the methods. So what Vue does is take all the properties and it proxies it up to the top of the Vue instance. So you probably expect to begin with that if you want to access this title property right here, you'd have to do something like this. We'd say this maybe to refer to this Vue instance, then we want to go into the data property, then we want the title. But like I said, Vue takes all of the data properties and proxies them up to the top. So we don't have to write .data, we can just say this.title, and Vue is going to know to look for the title property inside the data. So that's how we access the data inside our different methods. So why don't we output this to the browser inside this string? So like I said, template literal strings can output variables, and the way they do that is by using a $, one curly brace open, one curly brace closed, and then inside the name of the variable. So it's going to be this dot title to grab this title. And this variable syntax, this is nothing to do with Vue, this is ES6 functionality. And again, if you're unsure, check out that last bonus section where I go over this in more detail. Okay then, so let's save that and view it in a browser. And it says, hello there, becoming a Vue ninja. All right then, cool. Now this doesn't really make any sense. So instead, let's do a different property called name. And I'll set this equal to a string, which is Ryu. So this time what I'd like to do is output the name instead of the title. So this.name. View that in a browser and this works. Absolutely fine. Cool. So like other functions, we can also pass through parameters. So in regular JavaScript, we might be able to pass through a variable into this greet function. We can do that here. Say for example, we want to pass through a time of day. Then we can do that. We'll pass through a string, so in quotations, then we'll say the time of day is morning. So we're passing through this string as a parameter into this function, this method. Therefore, we can receive it inside this method over here. So let's call this time. And then what we'll do is we'll just add a comma here and we'll say hello and good. Then we'll open up our variable and say time. So it's going to grab this, whatever the time we've passed through, and then a comma, and then the name. So let's delete that comma there. So it should say hello and good morning, then the name, Ryu. So let's save this and view in a browser, hello and good morning, Ryu. And now if we change this to evening or something like that, save it, then it should update over here, hello and good evening, Ryu. Cool. So we're passing through a parameter, we're receiving that parameter and outputting it here in this template string, and then we're also outputting this name property on the Vue instance as well. Cool. So as you can see, already Vue.js is allowing us a kind of dynamic approach to controlling this app element. Now in the next video, I want to take this one step further and explore a concept known as data binding.